The icy wind howled across the barren plains of Erebus 7, carrying with it shards of frost that stung like needles. On this remote moon at the edge of known space, life was hard enough without an alien invasion. But now, survival felt impossible. Erebus 7 wasn't much. A cluster of domed habitats nestled into the frozen wasteland, connected by tunnels and powered by failing reactors. It had been established as a mining outpost decades ago, its primary purpose to extract rare minerals from the planet's crust. Over time, settlers arrived, hoping to carve out a new life far from Earth's crowded cities. They built homes, schools, even a small hospital. For years they lived quietly, their struggles limited to harsh weather and equipment breakdowns. But all that changed when the Vryn came. No one knew exactly why the Vryn attacked. Some said it was because Erebus 7 encroached on their territory. Others whispered about ancient grudges between humanity and the alien race. Whatever the reason, the result was devastating. The Vryn descended upon the colony with terrifying speed. Their sleek black ships cutting through the sky like blades. Their weapons were unlike anything the colonists had ever seen. Energy beams that melted metal and tore apart flesh. Captain Lila Voss stood on the cracked observation deck of Dome Alpha, her breath fogging up the reinforced glass. She watched, another wave of Vryn fighters streak across the horizon, their movements precise and relentless. Her gloved hands tightened around the railing as she forced herself to stay calm. Panic wouldn't help anyone. "Captain," a voice crackled over her earpiece. "We've got reports of heavy activity near Sector Delta. Looks like they're massing for another assault." Lila turned sharply. "Tell Lieutenant Marks to reinforce the perimeter defenses and get me a status update on our supplies, food, ammo, everything." "Yes, ma'am," she sighed, rubbing her temples. Supplies were running dangerously low. Food rations had been cut in half last week, and ammunition was almost gone. Worse still, their communication array, their only link to Earth, had taken critical damage 2 days ago. Repair teams worked around the clock, but progress was slow. Every second counted. If they couldn't send another distress signal soon, no one would know they were dying out here. Behind her, the door hissed open, and Dr. Elias Kane stepped inside. His face was pale, dark circles underlining his tired eyes. He carried a tablet clutched tightly in his hands. "Any luck?" Lila asked without turning. "Not yet," Elias admitted. "The prototype shield generator is operational, but it needs more power than we can spare right now. Without it, we won't stand a chance against their next attack." Lila frowned. "Then find a way to make it work. We don't have time for excuses." "I'm trying," Elias snapped, his frustration boiling over. "Do you think I want to sit here while those monsters tear us apart? My team is doing everything possible." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Lila softened. "I know you're doing your best, Elias. We all are. But if we don't hold out long enough for Earth to respond, none of this matters." Elias nodded, grimly. "Understood. I'll keep working." As he left, Lila leaned against the wall, letting herself exhale fully for the first time in hours. Leading this fight was wearing her down. She'd always prided herself on being strong, capable, but even she had limits, and the truth was, she didn't know how much longer they could last. Down below, in the dimly lit corridors of Dome Beta, Jax Torrin tightened a bolt on the damaged comms array. At just 19, he was one of the youngest members of the repair crew, but his hands moved with surprising skill. Growing up on Erebus 7, he'd learned early on how to fix things. Not just machines, but problems too. Right now, fixing the comms array felt like the most important thing he'd ever done. "Careful, kid," muttered Rhea, the senior technician supervising him. "Don't strip that thread." "Got it," Jax replied, focusing intently. His fingers trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from exhaustion. None of them had slept properly in days. The constant alarms, the endless repairs, the fear, it weighed on everyone. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Jax stumbled, grabbing onto the scaffolding for support. "What was that?" "Another strike," Rhea muttered, checking her wrist. "Monitor. Looks like they hit Dome Gamma. Stay focused. We need this array back online." Jack swallowed hard. Dome Gamma housed the colony's medical facilities. If it fell? He pushed the thought aside and kept working. There was no room for distractions. Not now. Back in Dome Alpha, Captain Voss gathered her officers for an emergency meeting. The room was cramped, filled with haggard faces illuminated by flickering lights. Most of them hadn't shaved or changed uniforms in days. Morale was at rock bottom. "We're running out of options," Lila began, pacing slowly. "Our defenses are holding, for now, but we can't keep this up indefinitely. The Vryn are testing us, probing for weaknesses. Sooner or later, they'll break through." "What about reinforcements?" someone asked. "Has Earth responded yet?" Lila hesitated. This was the question everyone dreaded. "Not yet, but the comms team is close to restoring partial functionality. Once they do, we'll send another distress signal." "And if they don't answer?" another officer pressed. Silence fell over the room. No one wanted to say it aloud, but they all knew the answer. If Earth didn't respond, they were on their own. After the meeting, Lila walked alone to the edge of Dome Alpha. Outside, the landscape stretched endlessly, white and desolate. Snow swirled in chaotic patterns, whipped by the relentless wind. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the Vryn waited, patient and merciless. She thought about home, about Earth with its blue skies and green fields. She wondered if anyone there even remembered Erebus 7 existed. To them, it was just a tiny dot on a star map, insignificant compared to the sprawling metropolises of the inner colonies. But to her, it was everything. These people were her family. This place was her responsibility. Sudden burst of static interrupted her thoughts. Her earpiece crackled to life. "Captain, come in. We've restored partial comms functionality." Her heart leapt. "Patch me through immediately." Moments later, she stood before the battered transmitter, speaking into the mic with every ounce of strength she had left. "This is Captain Lila Voss of Erebus 7. We are under heavy attack by the Vryn. Our defenses are failing. Supplies are critically low. Please, if anyone can hear this, send help. Repeat, send help. Erebus 7. Needs assistance. Over." Static greeted her reply. She tried again, repeating the message 3 times before stepping back. It was all they could do for now. Unbeknownst to her, the signal managed to reach Earth just as the transmitter gave out completely. Light years away, in a bustling orbital command center, Admiral Cale Ryder listened intently to the faint, distorted plea for help. His jaw tightened as he turned to his crew. "We're going to Erebus 7, he said firmly. "Prepare the Aegis Vanguard." Hope, fragile and fleeting, had been reignited. The United Galactic Council chamber on Earth buzzed with tension. Holographic displays floated above the circular table, showing maps of Erebus 7 and the ominous red markers indicating Vryn activity. The council members, a mix of politicians, military leaders, and scientists, were divided. Some argued passionately for sending aid to Erebus 7, while others insisted it was too risky. Admiral Cale Ryder stood at the center of the room, his tall frame radiating authority. His face bore the scars of countless battles, both physical and emotional. He had spent years fighting the Vryn, losing not only soldiers but also his wife and daughter in one devastating ambush. To him, this wasn't just another colony under attack. It was personal. "Erebus 7 is counting on us," Ryder said, his deep voice cutting through the noise. "If we abandon them now, we're telling the galaxy that humanity doesn't stand by its own. Is that the message we want to send?" A councilwoman named Senator Mara Draven leaned forward, her expression skeptical. "Admiral, I understand your passion, but let's be realistic. Erebus 7 is light years away. Sending the Aegis Vanguard would drain our resources and leave other colonies vulnerable. What if the Vryn use this as an opportunity to strike elsewhere?" Ryder clenched his fists but kept his tone steady. "Senator, the Vryn are already striking. They've been probing our borders for years, testing how far they can push us. If we back down now, they'll see us as weak. And trust me, they won't stop at Erebus 7. Lieutenant Mira Solis, seated quietly beside Ryder, added her input. With sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, she was known as one of the fleet's best tacticians. We analyzed the data from Erebus 7's last transmission, she explained. Their defenses are holding, for now, but they're stretched thin. Without reinforcements, they'll fall within weeks. Losing Erebus 7 gives the Vryn a strategic foothold near our outer rim. That puts multiple colonies at risk. The council murmured among themselves, weighing the arguments. Finally, the head of the council, Chancellor Elias Grant, raised a hand for silence. His lined face showed the weight of the decision before him. Admiral Ryder, he said slowly, you have my permission to deploy the Aegis Vanguard to Erebus 7. But know this, failure is not an option. Humanity's reputation, and possibly its survival, rests on your shoulders. Ryder nodded solemnly. Thank you, Chancellor. We won't let you down. Preparations. Begin back aboard the Pride of Terra, the flagship of the Aegis Vanguard. Preparations were underway. The massive vessel hummed with energy as engineers calibrated weapon systems, stocked supplies, and ran final checks on the engines. Nearby, the rest of the fleet gathered, a formidable armada of destroyers, cruisers, and support ships, each bristling with advanced technology. Lieutenant Solis moved briskly through the ship's corridors, reviewing tactical plans on her tablet. She stopped outside the bridge and took a moment to collect herself. This mission meant everything, to the colonists on Erebus 7, to Admiral Ryder, and to her own sense of duty. Failure wasn't an option. Inside the bridge, Ryder stood gazing out at the stars. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to remember the faces of his wife and daughter. Their laughter echoed faintly in his mind, a reminder of what he was fighting for. Shaking off the memory, he turned to address his crew. Listen up, he began, his voice firm yet compassionate. This isn't just about saving Erebus 7. It's about proving to ourselves, and to the galaxy, that humanity stands together. No matter how far apart we are, no matter how tough the fight, we don't give up. Not ever. The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted by Ryder's words. Among them was Ensign Callum Reed, a young navigator fresh out of training. He glanced nervously at his console, wondering if he was ready for such a daunting mission. Beside him, Chief Engineer Tessa Novak gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. You'll do fine, kid, she said with a wink. Just follow orders and stay sharp. The journey begins, with engines roaring to life. The Aegis Vanguard launched into hyperspace. Streams of light streaked past the windows as the fleet traveled faster than the speed of light, heading toward Erebus 7. Inside the ships, routines settled into place. Crew members rotated shifts, maintained equipment, and trained for the battles ahead. During one quiet moment, Lieutenant Solis joined Ryder in the observation lounge. The vastness of space stretched endlessly beyond the glass, dotted with distant stars. What's on your mind, sir? Solis asked cautiously. Ryder didn't answer right away. Instead, he sipped his coffee, staring into the void. I keep thinking about them, he admitted finally. My family. The Vryn took everything from me. Sometimes I wonder, am I doing this for Erebus 7 or am I just chasing revenge? Solis considered her response carefully. Maybe it's both, she said gently. But at the end of the day, what matters is why we fight. You're leading this fleet because you believe in protecting humanity. That's something worth holding on to. Ryder smiled faintly. You're wise beyond your years, Lieutenant. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Troubling signs as the fleet approached Erebus 7. Strange readings began to appear on their sensors. Lieutenant Solis noticed fluctuations in nearby energy signatures, patterns that didn't match typical Vryn technology. Sir, she reported to Ryder, there's something unusual happening near Erebus 7. These readings suggest the Vryn might be experimenting with something new, something dangerous. Ryder frowned. Like what? We're not sure yet, but whatever it is, it could complicate our mission. Determined to uncover more, Solis worked with her team to analyze the data. Hours later, they made a startling discovery. The Vryn were mining a mysterious substance from Erebus 7's core. Dubbed Xytherium in classified reports, The material seemed to amplify energy outputs exponentially. If weaponized, it could devastate entire star systems. This changes everything, Ryder muttered, studying the findings. If the Vryn succeed in harnessing Aetherium, they'll gain unimaginable power. We can't let that happen. Final approach with renewed urgency, the fleet prepared for arrival. Pilots ran simulations, strategists refined battle plans, and engineers triple-checked every system. As they emerged from hyperspace, the site of Erebus 7 came into view, a frozen moon surrounded by swirling debris and the ominous glow of Vryn warships. Battle stations, Ryder ordered, his voice steady despite the mounting tension. Remember your training, stay focused. We're here to save lives. The crew sprang into action, their movements precise and efficient. Outside, the Vryn fleet loomed larger, their sleek black ships casting eerie shadows against the icy surface. Below, the stage was set for an epic confrontation. As the first shots rang out, hope ignited once again, not just for Erebus 7, but for all of humanity. Earth's mightiest fleet had arrived, ready to turn the tide of the battle. The Aegis Vanguard emerged from hyperspace with a thunderous roar, its massive fleet materializing like a storm cloud against the backdrop of Erebus 7. The sight was breathtaking, a wall of gleaming warships armed to the teeth, their engines glowing like miniature suns. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in the hearts of Erebus 7's desperate defenders. But the Vryn weren't caught off guard. Their sleek black ships swarmed around the moon, forming an impenetrable blockade. As soon as Earth's fleet appeared, they moved to intercept, weapons charging and energy shields flaring. The first clash, enemy vessels closing fast, shouted Ensign Callum Reed, his hands flying over the navigation console on the Pride of Terra. His voice trembled slightly, but he forced himself to stay focused. Admiral Ryder stood tall at the center of the bridge, his sharp eyes scanning the tactical display. All ships form up into attack formation Delta 1, he commanded. Target their lead cruiser first. Lieutenant Solis leaned forward, her fingers dancing across her tablet as she coordinated the fleet's movements. Delta squadrons are in position, sir. Weapons systems online. With a nod, Ryder gave the order. Fire at will. The void erupted into chaos. Bright beams of energy streaked through space as Earth ships unleashed their firepower. Lasers collided with alien shields, sending ripples of light cascading outward. Missiles streaked toward the Vryn fleet, exploding in brilliant bursts that lit up the battlefield. The humans quickly gained the upper hand. The Aegis Vanguards advanced. Technology, developed after years of studying the Vryn's tactics, proved superior. Plasma cannons tore through enemy hulls, while electromagnetic pulses disrupted the aliens' targeting systems. But the Vryn were far from defeated. They regrouped swiftly, launching counterattacks with terrifying precision. One of their destroyers fired a concentrated beam that sliced clean through one of Earth's smaller cruisers, sending it spiraling into oblivion. Casualty report, Ryder barked, his jaw tightening. We've lost the spearhead, Solis replied grimly. Crew evacuated successfully, but we're down 27 personnel. Ryder clenched his fists but didn't hesitate. Keep pushing. We need to break their line before they call for reinforcements. Ground support, meanwhile, back on Erebus 7, Captain Lila Voss watched the battle unfold from the colony's makeshift command center. Her heart pounded as she saw the flashes of light illuminating the dark sky above. The arrival of Earth's fleet had reignited her resolve, but she knew the fight wasn't over yet. Captain, the Vryn ground forces are retreating, reported Lieutenant Marks, rushing into the room. Looks like they're pulling back to regroup. Lila nodded sharply. Good. Hit them hard while they're disorganized. Send out every available soldier. We need to reclaim key positions before they recover. Outside, the colonists fought alongside what remained of their defense force. Armed with scavenged weapons and sheer determination, they pushed back against the Vryn invaders. Jax Torin led a small team of engineers tasked with sabotaging the enemy supply lines. Crouched behind a pile of rubble, he signaled to his comrades. On my mark, he whispered, gripping his plasma rifle tightly. When the Vryn patrol passed close enough, Jax sprang into action, firing a burst of shots that sent the aliens scrambling for cover. His team followed suit, taking out several enemies before retreating deeper into the tunnels. Back at the command, Center Dr. Elias Kane worked frantically to complete his experimental shield generator. Sweat dripped down his face as he soldered the final connections. Nearby, Rhea, the senior technician, monitored the device's power output. "It's almost ready," Elias said breathlessly. "But activating it will overload the colony's reactors. Once it's on, there's no turning it off." Rhea frowned. "Then who's going to stay behind to operate it?" Elias hesitated, then straightened. "I will. It's my design. I'm the only one who knows how to stabilize it during startup." Before Rhea could protest, alarms blared throughout the facility. A massive explosion rocked the ground outside, shaking the walls of the command center. "They've breached Dome Gamma," someone shouted. Lila grabbed her helmet and turned to Elias. "Do whatever it takes to get that shield online. We're counting on you." As she left to join the fight, Elias stared at the generator, steeling himself for what lay ahead. A dangerous discovery. Amidst the chaos, Lieutenant Solis made a startling discovery. Analyzing data from the ongoing battle, she noticed unusual readings emanating from deep within Erebus 7's core. Cross-referencing with classified intelligence reports, she realized the truth. The Vryn weren't just attacking, they were mining Xytherium, a highly volatile substance capable of destabilizing entire star systems. "Sir," Solis said urgently, approaching Ryder on the bridge, "we have a problem. The Vryn aren't here just to conquer Erebus 7. They're extracting Xytherium from the moon's core. If they succeed, they could weaponize it, and we're talking planet-destroying levels of destruction." Ryder's expression hardened. "How much time do we have?" "At their current rate, maybe 2 days. But if they accelerate extraction efforts, it could be less." Ryder turned to the crew. "New objective: disable their mining operation. Ground teams will assist the colonists in securing key locations, while the fleet focuses on neutralizing their orbital platforms." "Understood?" "Yes, sir," the crew chorused. A plan takes shape. In the hours that followed, the combined forces of Erebus 7 and the Aegis Vanguard devised a daring plan. The fleet would launch a coordinated assault on the Vryn's orbital weapons platforms, which were bombarding the surface relentlessly. Meanwhile, ground teams, including Captain Voss, Jax, and Dr. Kane, would sabotage the mining facility and activate the shield generator. As preparations began, Ryder addressed his crew one last time. "This isn't just about saving Erebus 7, he said firmly. "It's about stopping the Vryn from gaining a weapon that could threaten humanity's survival. Fight with everything you've got. For your families, for your future, for Earth." The crew erupted into cheers, their morale soaring despite the danger ahead. The moment of truth. Under the cover of darkness, Jax and his team infiltrated the Vryn mining complex. The air was thick with dust and the acrid smell of burning metal. Alien drones patrolled the corridors, their red eyes scanning for intruders. "Stay low," Jax whispered, motioning for his team to follow him. They crept past a group of Vryn soldiers, avoiding detection by slipping through maintenance tunnels. Finally, they reached the heart of the operation, a massive drilling rig boring into the moon's core. "This is it," Jax muttered, planting explosives along the machinery. "Let's bring this place down." At the same time, Elias activated the shield generator in the colony's command center. The device hummed to life, bathing the room in a soft blue glow. Energy surged through the system, creating a protective barrier around the colony. But as predicted, the strain caused the reactors to overheat. "You need to leave, Doc," Rhea urged, tugging at his arm. "No," Elias replied calmly. "If I go now, the shield might fail. I'll hold it steady until the fleet gives the all clear." Tears welled up in Rhea's eyes, but she nodded. "Thank you, Elias." As the shield stabilized, the colonists cheered. Above them, the Aegis Vanguard launched its final assault on the Vryn orbital platforms. Explosions lit up the sky as human fighters clashed with alien ships in a dazzling display of courage and skill. With both sides locked in a deadly struggle, the stage was set for the ultimate showdown. Humanity had arrived in full force. But so had the Vryn, and neither side was willing to back down. The final phase of the battle was upon them. The air crackled with tension as Earth's fleet clashed fiercely with the Vryn in space, while on the surface, the colonists fought to reclaim their home. Every decision mattered now. Every second counted. Lives depended on it. Jax's daring mission deep inside the Vryn mining complex, Jax Torin planted the last explosive charge near the drilling rig. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He'd been running on adrenaline, for hours pushing himself beyond his limits. Behind him, his team covered the exits, keeping watch for any sign of Vryn reinforcements. "Done," Jax whispered, stepping back from the rig. "Let's get out of here." But just as they turned to leave, a squad of Vryn soldiers appeared, blocking their escape route. Their weapons glowed ominously, ready to fire. "We're not getting past them," muttered one of Jax's teammates, raising his rifle. Jax shook his head. "No, we don't have time for this." Turning to his team, he gave a grim smile. "I'll hold them off. You guys go activate the charges remotely." "What?" someone protested. "You can't take them all by yourself." "I didn't say I would win," Jax replied, gripping his weapon tightly. "Just buy you enough time." Before anyone could argue further, Jax charged forward, firing wildly at the Vryn. Caught off guard, the aliens scrambled to return fire, giving his team the opening they needed to retreat. As his teammates disappeared into the shadows, Jax stood alone, facing overwhelming odds. He fought with everything he had, dodging blasts and striking back with precision. Each shot felt like a heartbeat, a reminder that he was still alive, still fighting. When his rifle ran out of ammunition, he switched to a plasma knife, slicing through the enemy with desperate ferocity. In the end, though, the numbers were too great. A searing beam struck him in the chest, knocking him to the ground. As darkness closed in around him, Jax smiled faintly. The explosives detonated moments later, collapsing the mining rig and cutting off the Vryn's access to Zetherium. His sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Dr. Kane's final stand back in the colony's command center, Dr. Elias Kane struggled to keep the experimental shield generator stable. The reactors groaned under the strain, their warning alarms blaring incessantly. Sweat poured down his face as he adjusted dials and rerouted power manually. Rhea stood nearby, torn between staying to help and fleeing to safety. "Elias, please," she pleaded. "There's nothing more you can do. Come with me." "No," Elias snapped, his voice hoarse but determined. "If I leave now, the shield will collapse, and if that happens—" He trailed off, knowing full well what it meant. The colony would be defenseless against the Vryn's orbital bombardment. Outside, explosions rocked the facility as the battle raged on. Pieces of the ceiling crumbled, showering the room with debris. Still, Elias refused to budge. His fingers flew over the controls, stabilizing the energy flow even as the temperature rose dangerously high. Finally, the shield held steady. A soft blue glow enveloped the entire colony, deflecting incoming attacks from the Vryn's ships. Cheers erupted from the colonists outside, who watched in awe as alien projectiles harmlessly dissipated against the barrier. Elias slumped into a chair, breathing heavily. "It's done," he murmured. "Tell Captain Voss. Tell her we did it." Before Rhea could respond, the reactors reached critical overload. Flames erupted from the machinery, engulfing the room in an instant. Rhea barely escaped in time, stumbling out into the corridor as the command center collapsed behind her. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered a silent goodbye. Elias Kane had given his life to save Erebus 7 and humanity itself. Admiral, Ryder's ultimate choice in space, the Aegis Vanguard pushed forward, engaging the Vryn in a brutal dogfight. The aliens' flagship loomed ahead, its massive hull bristling with weapons. It was clear that taking it down would turn the tide of the battle, but it wouldn't be easy. On the bridge of the Pride of Terra, Admiral Ryder studied the tactical display intently. "Lieutenant Solis," he said, turning to her. "What's our status?" "All remaining ships are holding position, sir," Solis replied. "But we've taken heavy damage. If we don't act soon, the Vryn will regroup and overwhelm us." Ryder nodded grimly. Then, without hesitation, he made a decision. "Prepare the Pride of Terra for ramming speed." The crew froze, stunned. Sir? Solus asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Are you sure? It's the only way, Ryder said firmly. We disable their flagship, or we lose everything. Tell the fleet to fall back. I'll cover them. But Admiral... Solus started to protest, but Ryder cut her off. This is my fight, he said softly. For my family, for Erebus 7, for everyone counting on us. With tears in her eyes, Solus relayed the order. The rest of the fleet withdrew, leaving the Pride of Terra alone against the Vryn behemoth. Ryder addressed his crew one final time. You've all served with honor and courage, he said, his voice filled with pride. Remember this moment, not because of what happens next, but because of what we've achieved together. Humanity doesn't back down, not ever. The engines roared as the Pride of Terra surged forward, its shields blazing against the Vryn's relentless fire. With every passing second, the distance between the two ships shrank. Finally, in a cataclysmic explosion, the Pride of Terra collided with the Vryn flagship, obliterating both vessels in a brilliant flash of light. Silence fell over the battlefield. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, cheers erupted from the surviving human forces. The Vryn fleet began to retreat, their morale shattered without their leader. Victory at a cost on Erebus 7, the colonists emerged from their shelters, staring up at the sky in disbelief. The Vryn ships were gone, retreating into the void. The blue glow of the shield generator faded, signaling the end of the siege. Captain Lila Voss stepped onto the surface, her face streaked with dirt and tears. Around her, people hugged each other, laughing and crying in equal measure. They had survived, but at a terrible cost. Jax Torn's body was recovered from the ruins of the mining complex. Though he hadn't lived to see the victory, his bravery earned him a hero's funeral. Dr. Elias Kane's name was added to the memorial wall alongside those who had sacrificed themselves for the colony, and Admiral Cale Ryder became a legend. His selfless act ensured not only the survival of Erebus 7, but also humanity's continued defiance against the Vryn. Stories of his bravery spread across the galaxy, inspiring generations to come, a new beginning, as the survivors began rebuilding their shattered home. Lieutenant Mira Solus assumed command of the Aegis Vanguard. Standing on the bridge of her new flagship, she vowed to honor Ryder's legacy. We won today, she told her crew. But the fight isn't over. The Vryn will return, and when they do, we'll be ready. For Admiral Ryder, for Earth, for all of us. Far away in the depths of space, sensors aboard the fleet detected strange energy signatures emanating from a nearby nebula. Something, or someone, was watching, but for now, Erebus 7 was safe. Against all odds, humanity had prevailed, and as the sun rose over the icy moon, casting its golden light across the horizon, hope burned brighter than ever before. The battle was over, but the scars of war lingered. Erebus 7 stood battered and broken, its domes cracked, its streets littered with debris. Yet amidst the ruins there was a sense of renewal, a fragile yet determined hope that refused to die. The colony had survived against impossible odds, thanks to the bravery of its defenders and the arrival of Earth's mightiest fleet. Honoring the fallen in the days following the victory, the colonists gathered in the central plaza to pay tribute to those who had given their lives. A makeshift monument had been erected, adorned with names carved into metal plates salvaged from the wreckage. At the top of the list were 3 names that resonated deeply with everyone: Admiral Cale Ryder, Dr. Elias Kane, and Jax Torn. Lieutenant. Mira Solus stood before the crowd, her voice emotion pressing on her chest. She wore Ryder's insignia pinned to her uniform, a symbol of the legacy she now carried. Today, she began, we honor heroes. Men and women who chose to stand firm when the darkness seemed insurmountable. They taught us that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about facing fear head-on even when the cost is unimaginable. Her gaze swept across the faces of the survivors, some smiling through tears, others staring solemnly at the ground. Among them was Captain Lila Voss, standing tall but visibly weary. Beside her, Rhea clutched a small holographic image of Elias, Kane, her mentor and friend. We owe them everything, Solus continued. But more importantly, we owe it to them to keep going, to rebuild, to thrive, and to never forget what they fought for. This colony will rise again, stronger than ever. Because no matter how far humanity ventures into the stars, our spirit remains unbreakable. As the ceremony ended, the colonists dispersed, each carrying a renewed sense of purpose. For some, it meant clearing rubble or repairing damaged infrastructure. For others, it meant simply holding loved ones close, cherishing the second chance they'd been given. A hero's dream. Fulfilled Jack's torn sacrifice became a rallying cry for the younger generation. His name echoed in conversations around campfires and in classrooms hastily set up in temporary shelters. Stories of his bravery inspired countless young settlers to dream bigger, to believe that even ordinary people could do extraordinary things. One evening, as Lieutenant Solus walked through the colony, she noticed a group of teenagers huddled near a half-repaired generator. One of them, a boy barely older than Jax, approached her hesitantly. "Lieutenant?" he asked, clutching a worn notebook. "I heard you're looking for new recruits for the fleet. I want to join." Solus smiled softly, recognizing the same spark of determination she'd seen in Jax. "What's your name, kid?" "Kai," he replied, straightening his posture. "Kai Arlen." "Well, Kai," Solus said, placing a hand on his shoulder, "if you're serious about joining, start by learning everything you can here. Fixing generators, studying tactics, every skill matters. And remember, it's not just about fighting. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves." Kai nodded eagerly, his eyes shining with resolve. As Solus walked away, she felt a pang of pride. The next generation was already stepping up, ready to carry the torch. Rebuilding together. With the immediate threat neutralized, work began in earnest to restore Erebus 7. Supplies brought by the Aegis Vanguard helped jumpstart recovery efforts, while engineers worked tirelessly to repair critical systems. Dome Alpha, once a crumbling ruin, slowly came back to life, its lights flickering on one by one. Captain Lila Voss played a key role in coordinating these efforts. Though physically exhausted, she found strength in the unity of her people. Families pitched in wherever they could, sharing resources and skills. Even former rivals buried old grudges, working side by side for the greater good. Dr. Kane's experimental shield generator, though destroyed during the battle, provided valuable insights. Scientists aboard the fleet analyzed its design, hoping to replicate and improve upon it for future colonies. In time, Erebus 7 would boast defenses stronger than ever before. Amidst the rebuilding, moments of joy emerged. Children laughed as they played among the snowdrifts, their laughter echoing like music. Couples exchanged quiet vows under the pale sun, promising to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. Life, resilient and stubborn, refused to be extinguished. Hint of danger. As the fleet prepared to depart, Lieutenant Solus convened a final meeting with her senior officers. Holographic displays projected data collected during the battle, highlighting anomalies detected near Erebus 7's orbit. "These energy signatures," Solus explained, pointing to strange fluctuations emanating from a nearby nebula, "don't match anything in our database. They're too organized to be natural, and they've been growing stronger since the battle." "What do you think they are?" asked Chief Engineer Novak, frowning at the readings. "I don't know," Solus admitted. "But I don't like it. Whatever's out there, it's watching us. We need to stay vigilant." The implications hung heavy in the air. Had the Vryn's retreat been genuine, or were they regrouping? And if another threat lurked beyond the nebula, was humanity truly ready to face it? For now, though, the fleet had orders to return to Earth. With supplies running low and repairs needed after the brutal fight, they couldn't linger indefinitely. Solus made a mental note to report her findings to the Galactic Council, but, deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. It was merely a pause. Departure and hope. On the day of departure, the colonists gathered once more to bid farewell to the Aegis Vanguard. The massive ships loomed above the icy plains, their sleek hulls gleaming in the sunlight. As engines powered up, a deafening roar filled the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Lieutenant Solis stepped forward to address the crowd one last time. Her voice carried clearly over the noise, a beacon of reassurance. The Aegis, Vanguard may be leaving, she said, but humanity's promise remains. Erebus 7 has shown the galaxy what we're capable of, what we'll always fight for. You are not alone. Remember that. Cheers erupted as the fleet ascended into the sky, disappearing into the vastness of space. For a long moment, the colonists watched silently, their hearts swelling with gratitude and determination. Then, as one, they turned back toward their home. There was still much to do, but they faced the task with unwavering resolve. Together they would rebuild, not just a colony, but a symbol of hope for all humanity. Final reflection. Far above Erebus 7, aboard the lead ship of the departing fleet, Lieutenant Solis gazed out at the stars. The nebula loomed ominously in the distance, its swirling colors hiding secrets yet unknown. Somewhere within its depths, sensors continued to detect faint pulses of energy, signals that defied explanation. She allowed herself a rare moment of introspection, thinking of Admiral Ryder and the sacrifices that had brought them this far. Humanity had prevailed today, but the universe was vast and unpredictable. New threats would emerge, testing their courage and ingenuity. Yet as Solis looked at the crew around her, young and old, seasoned veterans and wide-eyed recruits, she felt a quiet confidence. Humanity had always thrived on adversity, rising stronger with every challenge. No matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. And so, with engines blazing and spirits high, the Aegis Vanguard sailed onward, leaving behind a colony forever, changed by their arrival. Erebus 7 had endured the storm and emerged stronger for it. The message was clear. No matter how far humanity ventured into the stars, Earth's mightiest fleet would always answer the call.